All right, this is the Enunciation Latin class. We're going to start, hold on, one more. We're going to start with, we're going to use what's known as the Familia Romana, and I'll talk more about this one. And in particular, we're going to start, of course, Capitulum Unum Pars Prima, which is chapter 1, part 1, with some definitions and Latin pronunciation. We kind of have to bootstrap our ways up here because we have folks who, really know zero Latin. And if we're going to do reading, and the Familia Romana is a very much a reading and listening type tool, you got to know how to pronounce it. So that's kind of a big goal for what we're going to do tonight. But what we always do, and my slides are a little bit out of the usual order, is we always have an opening prayer, and we'll get to that in a minute. We will talk about the electronic edition. Get it if you don't have it already. I'll talk about classical versus ecclesiastical very briefly. The reason I mention that is because it is relevant. If you say, oh, I want a Latin dictionary, and you go out and you buy a classical one, you will find yourself very frustrated because classical is great. Don't get me wrong, but ecclesiastical Latin has a whole bunch of words and vocabulary in it that are not in, classical Latin. So anyway, let's get started with the opening prayer, and then there's pronunciation is really the rest of it. And I will run through it. Through, there we go. The first lesson and the first chapter of the Familia Romana. I hope we can get through all that tonight. We'll see. We'll give it a try. But let's start with the prayer. Now, Latin pronunciation may be new to some of you. Don't worry about it. Wing it. I'm going to be having the microphones muted anyway. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to recite something in together over Zoom, but you'll find that all the various latencies in the system make it sound like something from the Tower of Babel. So we will just, you guys will be muted. I won't, so you can hear me. And you can follow along as best you can. Don't worry, we're going to work on pronunciation along the way, and so that should improve. And you're going to see Macarons. Those are markings over the vowel that tell you whether it's long and short. That'll be new, but we'll get to that too. But for right now, we're going to do the Ave Maria, the Hail Mary. This is, after all, the Enunciation Latin class. I know not all of you are an Enunciation, but with a name like that, you should do something Marian. So with that, we will begin. I think everybody's muted. Yeah. Okay, good. So try and read along, follow the words. If you know it, great. If you don't, fake it. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So, with that, buying the book. Most of you have already gotten the book, which is great. And really, book is not the right word because it's really an online electronic edition. That's what we're going to be using. The reason I chose that is it has everything we need. It has the audio, it has the text, and it has exercises. Some of the exercises are automatically graded online, gives you instant feedback. And then there are others that I will have to grade. But it's a nice complete package. And so for $40, that's not too bad. There are printed versions of this, optional, but feel free to, wow, okay. buy them. There we go. I don't care. I happen to have some of the printed versions, but I did that because I was scoping out the course. But you do need the electronic version. You really need that. And the electronic version, by the way, links back to me for the grading of exercises. So that's why I gave you guys this long URL. You need to create an account, so register. And let me know if you have any issues. It runs on everything, as best I can tell, pretty much. So I'm not going to say any more. Well, does anybody have any question about buying this? And don't forget, you need to unmute yourself because I unmuted everybody. Or because, okay, I'm going to assume the answer is no. Okay, so let's get started. I mentioned briefly at the beginning, there are two main flavors of Latin. There's classical, which is really the style of the Romans from the early Republic, called the Golden and Silver Ages of Latin literature. So up through about 200 AD, roughly. Names like Cicero, Tacitus, Martial, Caesar, Catullus, Pliny, etc. You know, those authors from well, just about 2,000 years ago. It's a very elegant form. Ecclesiastical, though, its pronunciation and style is from the early Christian era. So roughly the 3rd century through today, maybe the 4th century. I mean, it's where that break is kind of somewhat arbitrary, depending upon how you look at it. But it's obviously typified by the Latin church fathers, such as Augustine from the early church, the Middle Ages, such as Aquinas, and down to the modern era, what we have today. So we, of course, are doing ecclesiastical, not classical. The differences between the two are not that huge, okay? Both are pronounced like modern Italian. And by and large, a student of one should be able to understand the other guy, except the other guy sounds rather funny. Classical Latin tends to be very stiff and formal by and large. That's because they were into they were into elegance. Okay, they were into elegance, but as I said, minor pronunciation difference. Okay, you may have seen this phrase from Caesar, and you probably heard it as Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. Well, in classical Latin, you would say Veni, Vidi, Vici. And I'm sorry, the thought of Caesar, this big strapping conqueror, saying Veni, Vidi, Vici it just cracks me up. But that's how they said it. Today, you know, ecclesiastical is a little different. We actually say Veni, Vidi, Vici, okay? So that sounds a little, you know, I don't know, a little more manually. It is less formal. The larger vocabulary due to Christianity. See, one thing that's happened is Latin they call it a dead language. That's somewhat of a misnomer, you know. Ancient Egyptian is a dead language, okay? How many people write in, you know, hieroglyphics? Not many. But Latin continued to be used extensively well into the 1800s. It's only in the last century or so that you've seen a substantial decrease. So, so what happened is, you know, with all those years, centuries, they've had to add new terms for Christianity, philosophy, and the sciences. So there's a bigger vocabulary. There are some small shifts in grammar from classical, and it's more stylistic. Anybody who has ecclesiastical, as I said, if you've had one, you can pretty much understand the other one. And lastly, as I said earlier, we are using ecclesiastical Latin here because we do not want to sound funny at Mass. If you use classical Latin at Mass, I'm afraid you will sound a little weird. Instead of Ave Maria, you will say Ave Maria, gratia plena, or sorry, gratia plena. So sorry, try that again, gratia plena. So, you know, people will look at you funny. So, but the reason I mention this is if you go out and you say, oh yeah, I want some more, I want a book on Latin or something like that, make sure you realize that there is a difference there, because if you get classical, you're going to get Cicero and those guys, whereas ecclesiastical, you may get Augustine or Aquinas. So different style. I suppose if I had to compare it to something, classical is kind of like Shakespeare, maybe, and then ecclesiastical is more modern. Maybe that's the way to look at it. Any questions? Okay. Now, you'll notice there's some funny markings above the vowels here. Okay. And that is, whoops, let me get the right chart. Those are called macarons. Some pronounce it macarons. I've always pronounced it macarons. Those are marks indicating long and short vowels. So if there is a long line above your vowel, such as this A here, that makes it a long A. If there's a, I don't know, what do you want to call that? A half moon, quarter moon, crescent moon? Yeah, crescent moon. Then that is a short A. You used to see this a lot in the older dictionaries. Newer dictionaries have gone to the International Pronunciation Standard, whose symbols I no longer understand. It's more accurate, but little harder for me to use anyway. But really, the marking of the vowels is something that's very, very helpful. And in English, we have a similar issue. If I were to hand you just a random word, you would probably struggle to pronounce it because you wouldn't necessarily know what was long, what was short, where the stress on the syllable was. So this is really no different than English in that regard. Usually I'm only going to mark the long vowels. Okay. And if it's not marked, it's short. But I am not 100% consistent. If you will note, short, long, left it off, short, short, long, short, long, long. And I will do that sometimes when I'm introducing a word, so there's no, hopefully, or to try and minimize the confusion. Let me put it that way. So let's see, let's take, all right, let's take nobis. Okay. Now, if I just said N-O-B-I-S and you didn't know Latin, well, is that nobis, nobis, nobis? I mean, you wouldn't necessarily know what was long or short. So what we're doing here is we are marking them. And this is, I intentionally bought the, wanted everybody to get the Familia Romana version with the Macarons. It'll help in pronunciation, and it'll help in other ways. I freely admit that when we do the exercises, which you need to do Macarons, they are a pain. And I also admit that Macarons are, let's see where we, yeah, I'll be, actually, I'm getting ahead of that. I will also sometimes mark tick marks as accents. But as I said, the Familia Romana only uses long vowel macarons, but I reserve. Are macarons officially part of the language? I will answer that on the next, I think it's the next slide. Yes. Macarons are only training wheels, okay? They only appeared in texts starting roughly in the 20th century. Okay. I had one of the things I have the privilege of doing is reading lots and lots of medieval manuscripts. There is not a single Macaron anywhere. Okay. In fact, there's not even punctuation in many of them, which is kind of interesting. So yes, an unmarked vowel is short. Yes. Yes, Chloe. If it's not marked, then it's short. And most of the time, that's what we're going to do is I'm not going to bother to mark the short vowels. But there are places where it's convenient to do that just to distinguish something. And you'll see that later. But in the Familia Romana, they only mark the long ones. Anyway, Macarons are training wheels. As I said, they've only appeared starting in roughly the 20th century. Many current works do not have them. Okay. In fact, if you pick up most missals today, you will not see Macarons. We will use them with the Familia Romana to help with pronunciation, because this is a new language, and they are required in the exercises, and I'll show you what I mean by that later when we hopefully get to the exercises. So any questions there? Okay. Now, pronunciation. Now, I'm about to dump a lot of stuff on you newbies on pronunciation here. There's probably about, let me see, how many slides do I have on pronunciation? Oh, there's probably 5 or 6. Let's see. Oh, no. Let's see, how many? Okay, so, all right, there's not quite 10. Let me find, there we go. Not quite 10. There's about 8. Don't worry too much about this. This is going to be a learning process, okay? And the good news is the Familia Romana has audio. So you can read and listen to the story at the same time. That's another reason why I went with this. So it makes it pretty easy, or at least as easy as it's going to get, to pick up the pronunciation, okay? So some of these things that you're about to see on the actual rules for pronunciation they'll be reinforced in there. So wow, I swear I spell checked this. Come on, relatively. There we go. Titivolus has been dancing all over my computer the last couple of days. If you don't know who he is, look him up on the Wikipedia. He's the patron saint of typos. Sorry, the patron demon of typos. Let me get correct. So anyway, the Familia Romana has a lot of this in there, but I thought it would be useful to kind of go through it, preview it, and I think it'll all make sense as you, yeah, he's the Latin Loki. Yeah, that would be a very good, yeah, Teresa, that's a very good analogy. Now, on to pronunciation. Now, English vowels are a mess. English vowels vary all over the place. For example, very is pronounced the same as very, okay? And then we have the wonderful comb, tomb, and bomb. Now, those words should rhyme, right? But comb, tomb, and bomb, no. And then there's though, rough, and through. Now, I think we have some people here that maybe English was not their first language. Is that right? I'm just guessing that based on some of the Spanish. Feel free to comment.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I didn't have to
learn English. Yeah, learn English. I really feel sorry for people, for foreigners who try to learn English. It's a miserable language to learn. You know, because of all of the irregularities. Okay, most foreign languages by and large are much more regular. So anyway, but fortunately for us, Latin vowels have only two sounds, and that's it. Each vowel has a long sound and a short sound, and all you got to know is if the vowel is long or short. That's why we use the macarons. So there's no comb, tomb, and bomb. Okay, it would either be comb, tome, and boom, or it'd be a short O, which would be an so it'd be a cum, tum, and boom. So you know, it's none of that, and we have nothing like the other mess. So here they are. The vowels, if you remember your English classes, A, E, I, O, U. I'm leaving off Y for the moment. Then we have something called diphthongs. Those are double vowels. Well, let's do the vowels first. The A is, and by the way, all of these have English equivalents. It's just that English, okay, when the Romans put together the Roman alphabet, they matched the letters with each sound in the Latin language. Well, when English came along and adopted the Roman alphabet, Latin has about, I think, 24 or 26 sounds, something like that, whereas English had 40. And if you look at Old English, it even had some more sounds in there that have since kind of died off. So it wasn't English and the Roman alphabet are not a terribly good fit. But we do have words that are similar. So the short A is real easy. As in dine, And then a long A, same sound, just longer, is in father. Short and long. I don't think you can get much easier than that. E is pretty much the same as way. Get, pet, set, kind of an sound. And then a long E is a ne, and it's an a. So you take that a, longer. Same sound, just longer. Not too bad. Any questions there?
No.
Okay. I, a little trickier. Fit, pit, sit. But, you know, hey, that makes sense. Now, the long I is a lot like a long E in English. This is where things differ in English. So it's an I, and then long I is as in machine, E, machine, okay? If you've ever done any, if you've ever done any study of European languages, especially the Romance languages, they will call this letter E. They don't call it I, they call it E. And that's because in most European languages, the long I is pronounced E. So that's a little bit tricky there. The O is a short O, is an off or soft or loft, kind of an off sound. And then the long O is pretty easy, as in no or note. Yes, in French, they are flipped. Yes, that's where I first ran across that, I think, outside of Latin. So long O is a lot like the English long O. So no, note, O, otherwise a soft, off, soft, or loft. U is short U, put, foot, soot. Notice, again, we have English in its wonderful sense of consistency here. It's an sound. So put, foot, soot. Long U is sounds like a U, tuba, rude, or ew. Now that technically there's some other vowels in the U, but I'm trying to give you the idea here. So there's no as in nut. Okay, we don't have an All right, there is no sound in Latin, so it is an So it is a put or a Yeah, okay. All right. I was waiting for somebody to say that. Okay. All right. In choir, you actually do this differently. All right. And they even in English, you will run across this where if you're singing something, you will lengthen or stress the vowels in order for it to be understandable. Or in some cases, you'll hit the consonants harder. And yeah, Laura, what that is, that's known as I believe it's the Pius X version of Latin pronunciation. And that's perfectly valid version. But that is actually not what most people in the world use, unless they're in choir. Okay. Now, go back to choir and do what the choir director says, okay? Because that's singing. But for here, you're going to find that we have a slightly different pronunciation method. And if you listen to a lot of the recordings on YouTube of ecclesiastical speakers now, you will find that they mostly use our method. Any questions on that one?
Oh, real quick. So it's okay if I'm not misleading my students or anything by telling them, no, it's not in dulce jubilo, it's in dulce jubilo when I'm trying to get them to sing. That's okay. I'm not misleading them.
So, okay, say it slower.
Okay, sorry. So, I mean, I teach kids, I teach them. So we did in dulce jubilo this past Christmas. And so if I was telling them to sing in instead of in, that's okay.
Yeah. Are they saying it or singing it?
Singing it,
Oh.
singing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hold that thought for a minute, because I'm going to come to singing later on. Okay. Singing will tend to change. Well, all right, let's see. Where did I put this? Let me see where I hit it. Did I put it here? No. Ah, here it is. Okay. English speakers, and as well as other Europeans, will sometimes make a short vowel long when it becomes accented. So you've probably heard the priest say, Dominus vobiscum. Well, that's not really true, because that's a short O. It should be Dominus vobiscum. These are long, but the Dominus is short with the accent on the first one. But that's kind of hard to sing, okay? Especially if that is a long O, or I mean the O has a bunch of notes crammed into it, so they're holding it for a long time. So the do here is short, as in dot. But since you're singing it, it becomes a do or a long O. So you will usually hear Dominus vobiscum instead of Dominus vobiscum. I wouldn't get too uptight about the differences. In English, we have various accents, okay? Well, even within Latin, you have various accents. In English, potato versus potato, tomato versus tomato. So if you're going to say Dominus vobiscum or Dominus vobiscum, I think everybody will understand. In your case, Laura, I don't know where the setup is with the school and stuff, so I'm a little nervous to say one way or the other. Whatever makes sense from your guys' standpoint. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. But Gloria in Gloria in excelsis Deo. But if you have a long in, it becomes a E sound. And then you also have modern Italian, which really doesn't have a short I. So, you know, we could, let me put it this way, we could probably spend an entire course on Latin pronunciation, which I'd rather not do. And I think you guys wouldn't want to either. So, anyway, diphthongs. Yeah, there are a couple of important diphthongs in Latin. The AE, which is essentially a long E, aeternus for eternal. There's an an AU, which is like our OU, as in out or ouch, or audemus dicere. We dare to say, that's before the Pater Noster, the Our Father. Then there's an OE, which is the same as AE in ecclesiastical. So celum and celum are pronounced the same. They're the same word, okay? If you're reading from an older document from, let's say the 20th century, maybe the 19th century, i.e. the 1800s, then it probably has celum, OE. If you're reading a more modern one, it probably has the AE. And of course, there's the Regina Caeli, which you may see as C-A-E-L-I or C-O-E-L-I. Same thing. One is not, well, celum, if you had to say which is more correct, celum is technically more correct. That's what Cicero would have used. But in reality, it's, you know, yeah, same thing. Then UI, no, the AE and the OE are interchangeable anywhere. That just happened to be a word that I thought maybe people would be familiar with. I'm sure we can come up with other examples. I'm sure in the Familia Romana, they will, well, I don't know if they use celum at all, but I'm sure they will use the AE, which is the classical spelling. And so, no, they are not the only time the AE and the OE are in fact, in a lot of medieval documents, they don't even use the AE or the OE, they just use the E. So I run into that a lot. UI, as in dwindle, or the vowels in fui or cuius. Yeah, quotidiamus, and yes, and quotidiamus, yeah. Yes. So let's see here. What else was I gonna say? Oh, so any questions on that so far? Again, you're going to pick up a lot of this. Keep this handy. You're going to pick this up as you read and listen to the Latin. But I'm kind of hoping, you know, sort of, we basically have to bootstrap everybody up and have to start somewhere. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Oh, okay. No. IE. Okay. Oh, all right. I'll get to that in a minute, Jenny. Yeah, I know. Let me tell you, if you're typing in Latin and you have spell checking on, it's an exercise in patience. Okay. I'll get to your question in a minute, Jen. So anyway, so keeping in mind the table and the Hail Mary, we have Ave. So we have a short A. And we have a long E. So Ave. Actually, you shouldn't make that too long, then you make a long A. So Ave. Maria, short A. Long I, short A. So Maria. Grazia. And we'll get to the TI, we'll get to that in a minute. They kind of, they make that a TS. We'll get to that in a minute. So grazia, grazia. And then plena, long E, short A, meaning full of. So you can see how that all maps out. Consonants are pretty straightforward. They are normally hard, much as in English, but there are some exceptions, as there are in English. C's and G's. C's are hard before A, O, U, and AU, like Cattolica. And by the way, well, we'll get to that. Maybe I should have done syllables first. But anyway, Cattolica, okay. Gaudete, those are hard C's and G's. And then soft before A, E, O, E, and I. So caelum, notice we talked about caelum earlier. So it's not caelum, it's caelum. And let's face it, caelum just rolls off the tongue much better. Now, if you were Caesar or Cicero, you would have actually, if you were Caesar or Cicero, you would have said caelum. That's a different story. Anyway, caelum. And then,
Michael,
yeah.
you just said gaudete. Did you mean to say gaudete?
Ooh, no, that's a long, ooh, now is that a short E or a long E?
In any event, you pronounced it like a long A.
Yeah, long E, gaudete.
I believe it is Gaudete.
I believe it is a long E.
Yeah,
It is.
so that's why I'm saying, shouldn't there be a long E over the E?
Well, I didn't mark any of the vowels here, so.
Okay,
Um,
And we all know Michael's history on typos, so we're good.
right, okay.
I told you, Titivolis, he lives in my room.
I've always thought it was gaudete, but I didn't see the Macarons, so I wondered.
Well, and partly because that's definitely how we sing it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll find that I will slip a few, I will slip a few, the way we sing it, words in there, as opposed to maybe the strict. That's another reason I did the Macarons, is I need to clean up my Latin a little bit. Anyway, yeah, Cattolica, Gaudete, Caelum, and Gemma. So C as in cot, C or CH as in church, if it's soft, SC as in Tabasco, but if it's in front of these, it becomes soft, so it becomes as in sheep. G, God, G, gem before those. And then GN is kind of a NY sound, like we say manium or manius. That's an MAGN, like in Canyon, recall the Agnus Dei. So now again, don't sweat this too much, because you're going to get this reinforced in the pronunciation or in the audio files. But I just thought I'd kind of prime everybody. What is a consonant? Well, okay. A consonant is any of those letters that aren't these. Consonants are, wow, what's the definition of a the vowel? All right, I give up. Anybody got a good definition of consonant?
Anything that are not vowels.
Yeah, anything that sounds
No, letters that you can say with your mouth closed, as opposed to open.
I don't think I can say. Can I say?
Vowels are mostly in the throat, where consonants are usually enunciated through the mouth and the teeth and tongue.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When you're saying a consonant, you're blocking air from your mouth.
Yes.
That's how I think about it.
Okay. Let's see. Consonants continue. That's a good question. I may, if I teach this again, I may need to think about looking that up. Anyway, B, D, F, H, L. Notice it's A, B, C. I left out the C, D, E, F. These all make similar sounds to English.
Quick little thing, technically, those are just the letters we have for consonants. Things like cha, sha, ja, It
Yeah,
would all be also be consonants.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. H is always pronounced. So it's history. It's let's see, what was My Fair Lady? In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly happen. So you don't
Yeah.
swell the H's.
I got into a
Domestic
big
hockey.
online fight over that one day, just an FYI.
Yeah, there was well, let's not get into that. Q is the same sound as a hard K, again, like English, but U always follows a Q, again, like English. So it's a quit sound. Yes, unless you're Cockney. No, do not use a Cockney accent on your Latin. You will probably be unintelligible. So the Q, like in quick or quiet, that's identical. Now the R is rolled a bit, similar to Spanish. Maria. Now don't roll it too much. You know, you don't want to say well, you can't roll it indefinitely, but it is rolled just a little bit. Depending upon where it is in the word, it'll be more or less noticeable. And S is unvoiced, meaning it is always as in set and loose, never like a Z as in lose.
Michael?
Yeah.
I think of going about the R. I think in Spanish, it's like perro, meaning but, not perro.
Well, yeah, that's why I said don't
A
over.
flip.
Yeah, but I
Maybe-
mean, if you take those two examples,
Okay.
P-E-R-O and P-E-R-R-O, they have the different pronunciation, and it's the P-E-R-O-R that we use for Maria.
Yes. Yeah, there's just a little roll or twill or flip. Okay, but do not succumb to making S's Z's. And the greatest temptation is when you see Jesus. You will say Jesu or Jesus or some, you know, you're used to putting a Z sound in there. And you often hear that in singing. And the answer is no, it is an S sound. So
That must be hard for Germans.
pardon?
Must be hard for Germans because
It is, yes.
F-I-E is Z.
Yes, it is. Okay, J's, and then we're, I want to hurry up and get done with that so we can start in on the Familia Romana, at least the first section for folks. J is somewhat troublesome because J in Latin is what's called a consonantal I. What the heck does that mean? Well, it means it has two, J makes kind of a Y sound. So a perfectly good Latin word, major, meaning bigger, major, okay, is what we say in English, but major or major, actually you can spell it either way in Latin. That becomes a Y sound. Major, Jesus, okay. It's not a J sound, okay. It is always a Y sound. The reason we have the, and you will see, no, I'm sorry, the Familia Romana does not use J's. And part of that reason is J did not exist in classical Latin ever. It really didn't exist in ecclesiastical Latin for maybe a millennia and a half. Italian humanists decided to add the J to differentiate between the vowel I and the so-called consonant I. And this was about the 13th century is best I can tell. So eventually this J worked into ecclesiastical Latin books. I don't recall seeing it before the 16th century in anything that I've read. I could be wrong. But generally speaking, they used I's. Now, older liturgical books, again, from the 19th and 20th century, almost always show it. So if you open up most of your missals these days for the, if you open up a missal for the Latin Mass, For the Tridentine, you will probably see J's. Okay. Yes, Laura, that's true. Exactly what you said. So, so if you open up an older book, you'll see Jesus, Jesus. And if you open up, actually, if you go and open up the Latin Missal for the current Mass, you will see that, actually, I got to be careful. Do they use the I's? I think they use the I's these days. It's been a while. Renunciation used to have the 62 Missal and the 2000 Missal. And so sometimes, we'd often go to both, but we don't do the 2000 Missal anymore. So I don't get to practice that anymore. But a lot of the recent liturgical books went back to the I. It's stylistic is what it is. The Familia Romana does not use any J's, as far as I know. So it is Julius. Actually, it's Julius Caesar, but actually it's Caesar, not Julius Caesar. So just be aware of that.
Hey, Michael, the classical Latin, it's pronounced Kaiser, right? As in what the Germans used to call their leaders.
Yes.
I went into that into a video one time.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the Germans had it right.
Yeah, one of the few things I got right. But yeah, it's Kaiser. Yeah. So that's why I said, that there are some differences in pronunciation between the two, and that's why it's important to know which is which. Okay, V. Now, V is much less troublesome than J. V in Latin is called the consonantal U. It makes a V sound in ecclesiastical Latin and a W sound in classical. So as I think I said this earlier, you might see it written this way. And Caesar would have said Veni, Vidi, Vici. But Pope Benedict would have said Veni, Vidi, Vici. Vita, Caesar, Pope Benedict, Vita. Again, the letter V did not exist in pure classical Latin. And you'll see it in ancient monuments. That's because would you rather chisel out a nice clean V in stone, or would you rather try and do a rounded U? And the answer is no, the V is easier. So then there's also the Roman numeral V. So typically, like J, the letter V appeared over in time in ecclesiastical Latin. But unlike J, which these days has been deprecated for I, V's are still preferred, okay? You'll see V's all over the place. The Familia Romana does use V, but you will see it use the capital V in titles for the U. So if you've looked at the first section, or when we get to the first section, you will see this Imperium Romanum. These are pronounced as U's. So just, again, be advised. So let's see, I think that's, oh, yeah, one other thing. English speakers, oh, I already did this. This is the short and long vowels. Any questions on that? I'll skip that otherwise, because we kind of covered it. Okay. Syllables. Now we're down to the last one. Every Latin word has as many syllables as it does vowels or diphthongs. Okay. That is important. Okay, Chloe, you say, wait, does the V appear as a U or I'm not sure I understand the question. Go ahead and turn your microphone on if you want.
So in the Veni, Vidi, Vici on the other slide.
Oh,
where there's U's, is that, why are there U's there? Why is it?
Oh, okay. I understand now. If you were Caesar's secretary and he wanted to send a note to the Roman Senate, you would have written it this way. Okay. On the other hand, if you were Pope Benedict's secretary, you would have written it this way. So in classical Latin, they used regular U's for the most part, except when they were chiseling out U's in their monuments, they typically used a V. And you will see places where the V is used in funny places, like the Imperium Romanum. That's really a U there. So when you see a V or a U, you're going to have to kind of figure out whether it's really a V or a U. By and large, since the Familia Romana pronounces everything for you, this really shouldn't be a big deal. But I didn't want you to run into it and you go, what's going on? Okay.
Michael?
Yeah.
I thought that if you were speaking classical Latin today, V-E-N-I would be Wayne.
Oh, it is. Yeah. There's also a pronunciation difference. Yeah.
Okay, so today they do spell it V-E-N-I in classical Latin. They don't spell
Well,
it.
yes and no.
They spell it both ways.
They spell it both ways.
Okay, because I've never seen it spelled U-E-N-I.
Yeah. Okay. If you break down and buy a copy of the Oxford Latin Dictionary, there's not a single V in there anywhere. They all use the U's. So if you were to look up venio, I come, V-E-N-I-O, they would have it U-E-N-I-O. So now you're right, Alex, in that the I is less of a problem, okay? Because it kind of makes sense, I mean, you'd sort of pronounce it that way in English anyway. But the V's and the U's are a little more confusing. So yeah, classical Latin will use the V's. And in fact, if you were to buy the Familia Romana, classical edition, it would have the exact same text and they would have V's in there.
Did you say the Oxford Latin Dictionary uses?
Yes.
Okay, well, I have a pocket Oxford Latin Dictionary. I don't mean to contradict you, but I'm looking at Venio and it's spelled V-E-N-I.
Okay. I'm talking about the one that's about,
Big volume, big.
it's a huge volume. Yeah.
So when they move from the big volume to the pocket.
Well, I don't know which one came first, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Or which edition, and really what I mean is as far as the edition and the printing. So I honestly don't know.
Okay.
And also, some of this is stylistic. There's always the argument like, well, we're trying to be authentic. Well, what does that mean? I've heard choirs singing ecclesiastical Latin songs using a pronunciation that nobody in their right mind would use, but they're convinced that that's how it would have been sung in 600. And so by golly, that's how they're going to sing it.
Michael, if I don't know that this ever occurs, but if in a hymnal where they have Latin and you saw the U-E-N-I, then would you pronounce it with a V?
Yes.
Okay. So
Well,
that's a tip off for the rest of us if we ever see the U.
Yeah, I would be very surprised you would see a Latin ecclesiastical hymnal work or whatever using only the U's. If you go to the Nova Vulgata, which is the revised version of Jerome's Vulgate, they use V's. If you look in the Missal from 2000, i.e. the Novus Ordo, they use V's. I have never seen a church document of recent publication that did not use the V's.
When you see the U like this
Mhm.
in any context, do you use it? Do you say Wayne? In other words, do you pronounce it with the W, or do you revert to your
Oh,
ecclesiastical.
no, well, if I'm doing ecclesiastical, I'll say veni vidi vici every time.
Okay.
Okay,
But,
Now-
but, but you're saying that it depends on the context.
well, yes, but for our context, it's a V.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, well, excuse me. For our context, it won't be a U, it'll be a V. Excuse me. I misspoke that. So. Okay, anyway, let's continue on. Vulgar Latin, that's just the Latin of the common people, okay? It is closer to ecclesiastical Latin than it is classical Latin. So, all right, let's press on. And some of this, when we get to the Familia Romana, will hopefully become more, let's see, we did that. Syllables, okay. So Latin has no silent letters. And in Latin, every consonant, vowel, and diphthong is produced separately. So in English, you don't really know how, okay? English is kind of an odd language. You don't know if it is grouped or grouped or grouped. No, it's grouped. So we say grouped, not these guys. So you got to get the separation of the syllables right, which in English is like good luck. But in Latin, it's real easy. Syllables split after the vowels, followed by a single consonant or vowel. Okay, so ma, ri, a. You got 3 vowels in there. You got 3 syllables. Gratia. Okay. You terminate the syllable at the vowel if it's a single consonant. Jesus. Okay. If there's a double letter, then you split between the 2 letters. So peccata, sins. It's pronounced peccata, not peccata or peccata or peccata. It's peccata. This also applies to vowels. Tuum. Tuum, which means thy, is pronounced tuum, not like tomb, but tuum. And if you end up with multiple consonants, then it's split typically after the first consonant. So sancta, benedicta, okay? I've seen a number of misprints in chant books that say sancta. That's not true. It is sancta, which is very hard to sing. So I can't blame people for saying sancta. But anyway. Okay. So every letter is pronounced, every syllable. No funny business like English. Accents, straightforward. If it has 2 syllables, the accent always falls on the first syllable. So amo, which means I love, is pronounced as amo, not amo. Okay. If the word has 3 or more syllables, this is where things get a little tricky. The second to last syllable has a long vowel in it, hence a macaron. The accent is placed on that syllable. So peccata is peccata because that vowel is long. If it is short, then you go to the 3rd syllable from the end. And when we say the Our Father, we say in nomine. Well, short, so that accent goes there. So nomine. And even if that 3rd syllable or 3rd vowel is short, you still put the accent there. So that's why we say dominus. Okay. And by the way, sorry, dominus. Try not to make it rhyme with noose. You'll catch me. I'll catch myself at it every now and then. But it's dominus. Short U.
So then you would say peccatoribus.
Yes.
Because the 3rd from the end. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So bad news, you got to know which ones are long or short. Good news, the Familia Romana marks it that way. So it's not quite as bad as it might seem. So as I said, oh, that's homework. So let's jump into the Familia Romana. Okay, let me give me a second here. I logged out because, or I should say I timed out. And let's do this. Okay. Now, before I do this, actually, let me do it this way first. Okay. There is a map of, well, no, actually, I'll go back to the other way. Let me go back to where I was doing that. There we go. Yeah, here we go. Let's go back to Familia Romana and let's go back to, there we go. All right. This is what you get when you first log into the Familia Romana. Okay. Do go and read, whoops, where it is here. Yeah, okay, here it is. Click here for the student guide. I'm not going to do that. You know, read it. It has a lot of detail in there. It tells you how to get the macarons in on the letters, etc. But you know, do that at your convenience. What you see here are the 35 chapters of the Familia Romana, and we're going to start with chapter 1. Now, for the moment, do not worry too much about the Latine disco, which literally means I am learning Latin, or the Grammatica Latina, which is Latin grammar. And just to show you something, just so you can understand why I say don't bother with it right now. And I'm sorry, it's a bit slow because there we go. I don't know if you can make that out or not. I may have to zoom in, but the Latin grammar is in Latin. Okay. Let's see. I think I can I zoom on this thing? I thought there was a way to zoom. There should be. Can I zoom? Yeah, there we go. There we go. So the Latin grammar is in Latin. All right. We will actually get to this eventually. All right. But right now, for those who are totally new, then this is something that's no, don't bother with it yet. What we're going to start with, though, right off the bat, is the Familia Romana Lectio Prima would be the first reading. In fact, sometime, you know, in especially in the 62 Missal, you know, you'll hear Lectio Sanctia, some, you know, Pauli, reading from St. Paul or something. So Lectio reading prima first, and it's the only lines 1 through 21. Now,
And be aware that when you start happily reading and you're reading and reading and reading, you can read way past verse 21.
oh yeah, yeah.
But
Let
you
me just
stop around 21, then
Yeah,
you can go and do
let me show you
listen
that.
to it and do the exercises.
Yeah, you see the numbers 1, 5, 10, 15. Those are the line number or the sentence numbers. This 2 here is for the next section. Okay, so the audio will stop right there. Now, I don't know how good is everybody's geography?
Really good for around Rome, actually.
All right.
Nowhere else.
I will start reading this instead of using the audio. Roma in Italia est. Italia in Europa est. Grecia in Europa est. Now, if you've had this class before, I want you to be quiet for a moment. Is there anybody who's a Latin newbie can tell you what Roma in Italia est means?
Yeah, that Rome is in Italy.
Right, Rome is in Italy. Yeah. Italia in Europa est.
It is Italy. Italy is in
Yeah.
Europe.
Now, a couple things to note.
Yeah.
Note, it literally Rome in Italy is. They sound a little like Yoda, don't they?
Mm.
The first thing you got to realize in Latin is that word order is much more flexible. And actually, if you read the Latine Disco, after you do the audio and the reading first, then go back to the Latine Disco, because they'll talk about all this. I think it's easier to see it first and then read about it. But you know, if you find out it's better for the other, you do it the other way, fine, go right ahead. Doesn't matter. But important note is that Latin word order is relatively flexible. This, by the way, is the typical word order. They tend to put the verb at the end. Now, let's see here. But it's not absolute. So we have here Egyptus in Europa non est. Egypt is not in Europe. Egyptus in Africa est. Egypt is in Africa. Gallia non in Africa est. Anybody know what Gallia is?
Galatia?
No.
Is it France?
Gaul.
France.
France.
Gaul.
Yeah. Just remember Charles de Gaulle. Literally means Charles from France. Gallia. Yeah. Gallia. Yeah.
That first sentence, Egyptus in Europa non est, that's the general rule, but that third sentence,
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. Hold on. Gallia.
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, Gallia non in Africa est, Gallia est in Europa. So notice they've moved that est around, okay? So Latin word order is more flexible. I'm not going to get into any rules for Latin word order yet. It's not completely free. I mean, you couldn't say, oh, let's see, you can't say in Roma, Italia est, because if you say that, then it would mean Italy is in Rome, which I suppose is in some sense right, but you know, that no, and you can't say est in Roma, Italia in, or something like that. You can't, there is a certain pattern, but the verb certainly can come at the end at this point, or in the middle, either one. The known, let's just make let's see, where's the known is usually with the verb. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that because anyway, there's some flexibility as to where the known goes. Anyway, let's see, we got 15 minutes. Well, let's just listen to this for a minute. You can, oh, who was it that was having trouble with the audio? Somebody wrote me and said that the audio was not playing.
Yeah, that was me, Michael.
Oh,
And
okay.
right before the class, somehow or another, I figured it out.
Michael,
So,
You're a genius, right? Obviously.
well, you know what it is? You see those little zeros up on top? Of the,
oh, these, okay.
I didn't know that those things were actually, you know, that's what I started pressing those, and that's how I got into the dual.
Oh, yeah, okay,
reading
okay.
and
The way
listening.
this works, okay, let me go to the menu for a moment. You see that in chapter 1, you have the Latine Disco, the Grammatica, the Imperative, all the way down. What this does is it allows you to go to the different sections in chapter 1, okay? So if I go here, well, we're in the audio, but the next one will be the exercises. And I want to do one set of exercises before we disappear. The second set, the third set, and then the Lectio Secunda, which is the next chunk of text, etc. So these are a fast way to navigate. And you can even backtrack a little bit. So yeah, no, you just hit
Got it.
the big red button.
Got lucky.
Michael, can I vote for you being the reader instead of the other guy?
Why is that?
You sound better.
I sound better?
You sound better.
Oh,
It's-
wow. Okay,
You're
all right.
not
I'll
interested.
do that.
Okay.
I'll, well, is there a vote for the other guy or myself? How's the class split on that? We're not usually a democracy, but I'll be a benevolent despot for the moment. Okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do a little of both. Okay. Let's start off with the other guy just to show you how, yeah, let me start off because I'll just show you how this works. It starts out,
Capitulum primum. Imperium Romanum.
oh, or I forget, Imperium Romanum. This is what I was saying about the V's. These are really U's in here. They're being fancy schmancy. Okay. This is what you would have on the side of them. If you went to Rome, and you were reading the monuments, many of which have Latin, then you tend to see the V's there instead of the U's. And that's why I mentioned it, is I didn't want people to be confused. But notice he said Imperium Romanum. All right.
Is that also why they're entirely in capitals?
Yes. Try carving.
Yeah, the Romans didn't have lowercase.
No, they did. They did. They had minuscules and majuscules. They used the majuscules on all of their monuments because it was way easier to. I'll tell you what. When you get a chance, Adam, get a nice stone and a hammer and chisel, and do maybe the sign of the cross or the Ave Maria, and you'll find that. Yeah, it's a lot easier to do the capitals because they tend to be straighter. All right, let's continue here.
Roma in Italia est. Italia in Europa est. Graecia in Europa est. Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt.
Europa sunt.
Hispania quoque in Europa est. Hispania et Italia et Graecia in Europa sunt.
All right, let me just stop it there. You see that as it plays along, it fills up this thing. You can actually click anywhere and skip ahead if you want. I think the only thing I would complain about is there doesn't appear to be a way to slow it down a little, which I think would be nice. I may write that in as a suggestion. So, but we're covering this point. So,
Would I be able to slow down on the computer itself?
you might be able to. And I'm not doing it through SoundCloud, and SoundCloud may actually have some additional features in there that I don't know about. But anyway, is there any questions on that first paragraph? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, Michael,
Yeah.
that last word, sunt, is that really needed in this, in that sentence?
Yes.
It shows existence, right?
Yeah, well, okay. Est is singular. Sunt is are. So Hispania et Italia et Grecia in Euro. Well, all right. Okay, I see what you're asking here. No, it isn't. You're right. You're right. If you have had Latin before, you will find out that.
No, I'm all new. This is all Greek to me.
Oh. Okay. You're in the wrong class if it's Greek. No. Latin can leave words out that English would demand. I'm going to postpone that topic to much later for now. But Hispania et Italia et Grecia in Europa sunt. So just like English, where we say, Roma est, Rome is, okay? We would say Hispania et Italia sunt, meaning Spain and Italy are or exist. Same thing. So yeah, you really do need a sunt there to show that Hispania et Italia et Grecia in Europa are. No, the H's should not be silent. It should say Hispania now. Well, all right, let's see, where were we? Let's back it up.
Hispania quoque in Europa est. Hispania et Italia
Oh, I
et
think you're
Grecia
right. It does
in
sound like it's
Europa
swallowed.
sunt.
Yeah, now that may be, okay, that may be a stylistic difference. The H's are pronounced normally.
That's why I prefer you to him.
Oh, okay. Well, on the other hand, it's important. Well, it is important to listen to different accents, for lack of a better term. Okay. No, it's not quite Cockney. Well, okay, maybe in this case, yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe it is a Cockney accent in this case. Yeah, the H's are usually pronounced. Okay. I think I know where this came from. It has to do with the Middle Ages, and I don't want to get with that, but for now, pronounce them. Let's see, anything. Oh, now, before I forget, notice Italia with a Macaron over the A, and then Italia with no Macaron. Yeah, we're running out of time here. Okay. The other thing that you're going to have to grapple with is Latin is known as an inflected language, not infected, inflected, or fusional. And that is the part of speech that a Latin word takes depends on its ending. So we have to say in Italia with a long A, and we have to say in Europa with a long A, and let's see, and we have to say in Africa with a long A. No, the H's are not usually silent if they start a word in ecclesiastical Latin. Despite now he's swallowing them, but that's a stylistic difference. This is where I may Xerox the pages out of Collins and send them out to everybody, just for clarification. So yeah, we'll get to that, Alex. So right now, I'm not going to hit up the grammar too much. Well, actually, I'm not really going to hit it up, other than to note that it is in Europa. Now, eventually, let's see here. Where do we change? Okay, okay. Well, we'll get to some of the grammar things. At the moment, just note that. Okay, we're getting our feet wet. We're dipping our toe into the impluvium, so to speak. And so you're going to see that these words will change endings depending upon function. English has very, very little of that. Now, we obviously have singular and plural, okay? We would say, I don't know, let's see, one Italian, two Italians. We add an S, big deal. But that's about it. Well, possessive too. We would have, the Italians, apostrophe S, meaning some particular Italian, I don't know what, shoes or cities or countries or whatever, house. And then we would say S apostrophe, Italians, S apostrophe for plural. So English has a little bit of it. Latin has it in spades. And I don't want to get too far down the grammar yet. When we get to the end of this first reading, we'll hit a little bit of it, and then the second chapter is where we'll get into this some more. So for now, what I want you to do is simply read this, listen to it, and understand it without having to mentally sit there and translate each word. Okay. You may have to struggle with it. So you say, like, Arabia quoque in Asia est. So what's this quoque? Well, you go back here and you see Egyptus in Africa est, Syria non est in Europa, sed in Asia, Arabia quoque in Asia est. Arabia is also in Asia. Syria et Arabia in Asia sunt. Germania non in Asia, sed in Europa est. So,
Michael?
yeah.
Excuse me for the interruption. In your locutio, on your diphthongs, you don't have the EU. Could you pronounce that for us?
It is an u sound, which tends to come out as an Europa. Okay. It's not a usual, well, it's not considered one of the usual diphthongs. I'll have to go back and look it up. Yes, English is position-based, whereas Latin is form-based. So very much so. Yeah, it is a bit like, yeah, I think this is actually a diphthong. It's not one you normally see listed, and I need to go look it up and see how it is treated. But you'll see that he says Europa, and it comes kind of out as an u type sound. So anyway, let me get to the exercises because we are almost out of time. Read through that, listen to it. And the other thing that you can do is here is only the audio. Now, once you get kind of comfortable with that, you can,
Capitulum primum.
you don't need the text.
Imperium Romanum. Roma in Italia est. Italia in Europa est.
So we want to think both visually with the word, but we also want to work auditorially. So, but at the very least, you know, read through that, listen to that, and if you can, then try, whoops, I went the wrong way. There's the map, by the way. Whoops, okay, whoop, too far. I always have trouble navigating the, whoops, where it is. There's the audio. Okay, there's the plain audio. So, but I do want to go through one exercise here, and we're just about out of time. Okay.
Hey, Michael, may I make a quick suggestion to, especially to the new people?
Sure.
I think when I was working through the exercises, you can't, on my computer, I couldn't see all the word bank on the right-hand side. I had to do the control minus sign to bring the screen down so I could see all of the suggestions.
Yeah, you can, accessibility allows you to change the background. It also allows you to change the font. And then the zoom, it tells you is Command plus, and then the, oh, that's a Mac command. I don't know if it changes that or not for.
I did do the control minus sign.
Yeah, so it'll be control minus sign, there we go, on Windows, and control plus sign on Windows. On the Mac.
But just in general, I found those little dots up at the top hugely helpful to rather than having to keep going back through the menu.
Well,
when it's time to do the next thing, you can use those.
Yeah, let's get to the exercises first. Now I have to switch to student mode here because I can't put anything in. So I have to pretend I'm a student. There we go. All right. Oh, I've already done these. Oh dear. Oh well. All right. So Italia in Europa est. And you can just copy and paste those in. Gallia in Europa est. Okay. Italia et Gallia in Europa sunt, since it's plural. So Arabia in Europa non est, Arabia in Asia est. I realize I'm going through these pretty quickly, but you type them all in. Oh, let me make a mistake. Let me make this. And if you have to type a Macaron, you can click on the hold on, let me get this out of the way here. You can click on the letter. So if we wanted an A in here, Sunta, yeah, there we go. There's my mistake. And then you say check answers and you see green, 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 green. Oh, look, I made a mistake. So you can do these exercises 1 and 2 as many times as you want. The idea being they're self-grading, and then you can, work with it. And then let's see here. The change here is when exercise 2 is similar. Okay, yeah. Next time I'm going to make sure I clear out all my answers. By the way, I do this. I do the student stuff as well because whoop, I missed poor Francis. Francis, do you keep dropping or? Okay. Where was I? Yeah, I do the student exercises as well, so I know what you guys are dealing with. The one that's different is exercise 3. This one you have to submit to me, okay? And I actually grade it. And let's see here. Let me oh dear, let me zoom out here. Yeah.
For some reason, when I was trying to type, it wouldn't allow me to type in. Do I need to go to your like student or something? I don't.
Well, you should only be a student.
Okay, well, I don't know why it wouldn't allow me to type in.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay. So we'll just do in C est. Now I know how to type the Macarons, but in yes, you need yes, exercise 3 needs full sentences and everything needs Macarons. Okay. You'll probably come to hate them. But like your vegetables, they're good for you, right? That's weird, Alex. I don't know why that would be the case.
I just fiddled with it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. So anyway, this, when you're all done, you would then submit it. Let's see, where is the question? Oh, is it down here? All right, where'd it go? All right, where'd the submit button go? Let me collapse that stuff up there. There we go. Get rid of that. Yoo-hoo, questions. I thought there was a submit button. Am I missing submit? Well, on the other hand, since I'm not a student, there should be a submit button in here. I don't know where it is. But what I would like you to do, oh, is there any questions on this? Because I want to hurry up and wrap up because we're into overtime. Because I want you guys to struggle a little bit with the first chapter.
Michael, how are Macarons added? I missed how you
okay.
did that.
2 ways. You can either, well, the easy way is, you see here, there's the Macaron there. So you type, Roma in Ital. That's whoops. And then you click over here and then you find the Macaron. There we go. Est. So you can click on this little thing here. There should be one in, yeah, there's usually one in every typing field. Okay. So it pops up. Now, there are ways to type it directly. I can type it directly on my computer because I have it set up. The problem is I know nothing about Windows or Android, so you're kind of on your own. If you have a Mac and you want to know how to do it, send me an email and I'll show you how. But really, it's not that, at least at this stage, it's not that hard to go over there and do that. Any other questions?
Oh, could you clarify what the assignments are this week?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
just 1 through 3?
That's actually what I'm coming to. That's the next chart. Okay. Yes, and you can copy a word. In fact, if you wanted to, let's see, where is?
And how do you buy this impair
I
this
s-
imperium?
Yeah, I sent an email, Adam, to
Okay. Yeah, I
Susan.
saw that.
It should have it in there. If it's not in there, then I forgot to send it to you guys, in which case send me an email. Oh, did you get the notes
Notes?
for the class?
Let me check.
Yeah,
Would it be in the same email?
they were
Yeah.
attached to your email.
Yeah, it would
Yes,
be
I
attached.
did.
That'll tell you how.
I got a favicon and something else with a Latin thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
it should be in there. If
got
not,
it. Thank you.
shoot me an email and I'll get you the right one.
And, and I will just mention
You can-
briefly, even though he says you're going to hate the Macarons, they are absolutely fabulous when, as a guide to how to pronounce when you're speaking.
Yes, that's why. And you can even go back to the reading and copy and paste. So, if the answer is Roma in Italian est, and you are super lazy, now just make sure when you come in and you come out, you save it. There's a save there. Whoops, I thought I copied that. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, so you can copy stuff from the various sections here. Anyway, let's wrap up here and hit the homework. And okay, so I'll mute everybody here for just a second. There you go. So if you haven't already got it, please get it, because it's going to form the basis of this class. You're going to be able to do exercises. I'm going to get your assignments and, correct them or make comments. So far, a number of people have done it. Other than the occasional typo, which is obviously a typo, or the loss of a macaron, everybody's done pretty well. So good. So listen to and read along with the first part of chapter 1. That's the Familia Romana, Lectio Prima, verses 1 through 21. When you're done with that, go back and read the Latine Disco section. They have a lot of good stuff in there, okay? We're going to get less and less, or sorry, I should say we're going to end up doing less and less in English and more in Latin. For this first class, I'm doing a lot in English because, a lot of you guys, Latin is Greek, to quote somebody who said that earlier. Ignore the Grammatica section for now. We will circle back to it later. It is an important section, okay? But it is not really necessary for chapter 1. Now, give the exercises a try. 1 and 2 are self-grading. And if you feel brave, try number 3, okay? But at least do 1 and 2. And then next week, we'll probably, we'll find out where everybody is next week. We'll probably continue with chapter 1 and the first part. We may move if everybody's comfortable with the first section, we may move. Is there a class certificate at the end? Not really, but I can make one up. I mean, this is not like, okay, this class is sponsored by Annunciation. It is for ecclesiastical Latin, and the idea being Latin is an important language in our faith life and the history of the church and the liturgy, okay? So the goal of this class is to help people read and listen to Latin, pronounce Latin, to better able to participate in the liturgy and to understand the liturgy. Okay. So it's not a, this is, now, schools do use this and homeschools do use it. And, those schools would maybe issue a fancy certificate. But if you want, I can certainly issue a fancy certificate at the end if that'll motivate you more. But really your motivation should be that if you stick it out all the way to the end, you can do the Gloria in Excelsis Deo and know exactly what it means, or the Credo. So, all right. Any more questions?
Yeah, hey, Michael,
Yeah.
you said on that last point to give 1 and 2 a try.
Yeah.
When I was, as you went through 3, I was looking at it and I'm going, I am totally lost.
Well, okay. You got it. Have you read the whole section 1 yet?
Just no.
Okay. Read section 1. You will find, okay, let me show you this. Ubi est Roma. Well, if we go back, let me find, here it is. Well, first off, what do you think ubi? Well, we haven't had ubi yet, and we have to read a little bit farther. But what do you think ubi est Roma? Yeah, if you got to go ahead. I'll be done here in just a minute. Namely, Roma in Italia est. Okay, so we can copy that. And I'm hoping this will pass. Paste, sorry.
You're still in the homework
Paste, yeah.
section.
There. So you can actually steal that from the other section, okay? But definitely you got to look at all of you got to go through that entire first reading, listening to it. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Latin dictionaries later. Right now, let's hold off on the subject of dictionaries.
So
Okay.
you're saying that once I read the whole thing, not to sound repetitive, that I will have a better guesstimation of what the word uba means?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And now, okay, I suppose I should mention, let's see, where is it? There is a glossary, I think.
Yeah, on the right side, but I looked at that and it just starts listing from A to Z.
Yeah, it's not the greatest, but you scroll down like it's looking for UBI. Well, that's in cubiculum and dubitat. This is not a great dictionary. We'll talk about dictionaries later.
Well, I got the scribs for what it's worth.
The what?
Scripts, is that it? The scribes?
Oh, scribus.
Scribus, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which you recommended for the other class, which I thought that's what this class was going to be.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay, no biggie.
All right, but I do want to log off here because we are in overtime. So with that, let's see, we are back in there. Oh, I forgot to share that screen. Sorry. Oh, well, I guess you guys are all seeing the
Yeah, the homework. Yeah, I know. That's what I tried to tell you. But that's okay. I understand.
Sorry. So with that, anyway, give that a try. At the very least, listen and start in on exercises 1 and 2 and try 3, 3 you get 1 shot at.
So 1 and 2, I can keep hearing it over and over and over and over again.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Let's sign off with our concluding prayer, and then we'll be done. I'll stay on a few more minutes afterwards for more questions, but I want to try and stop at 9 as closely as I can, and so that, because I know people sadly people have to get up in the morning. I find that unconstitutional myself, but all right, so I will mute everybody. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. And so for that, we are done. If you got to sign off, I will stay on for a few extra minutes if you got any last minute questions. But otherwise, bonum noctum. Good night.